Guys, welcome back to the channel. New Cardfight Vanguard video. We got a new episode review, and I am beyond hype. This episode was insanity. I spent like two hours reverse engineering all these effects and trying to figure out everything that we've got coming to us because it was just so hype. We had Sephirogila versus Bavsargra, and Bushy Road cooked with both of these decks. And when I tell you some of the stuff I realized about both of these decks, you guys are gonna understand why this is so nuts. But you guys enjoy the content, drop a like, subscribe. Let's hurry up. Let's jump into the video because I'm way too hyped and we gotta get started. So episode kicks off with Michiru and Danji over in America talking about the deluxe and how it's gonna get started. And you know, they're asking if they're worried about players over there. Danji's like, nah, everybody's gonna do great. We get a shot of Mira meeting up with Megumi, and then we get to see Akina walking into the venue. We get our opening ceremonies for the deluxe, and I didn't know this, but apparently deluxe is an acronym. I thought that was kind of funny. Just some quick lore and terminology for anybody that didn't watch Will Dress. So front fighters and counter fighters, you'll see Jinky talk about that. A front fighter is somebody who enters major tournaments. They're well known, they're out in the spotlight, they're famous because they're a good fighter. Counter fighters are more underground. They're more like people that just play with friends and, you know, do like matches with someone who randomly challenges them. They're not out in the spotlight, but they're still good players. That's why he's brought these two kinds of players together to see who's really the strongest. We get the rundown of everybody that's going to be playing in this venue. Now, mind you, there's supposed to be 16 players, but we only have 12 here. We get Raika, Mire, Senka, Megumi, Suzune, Erika, Now, Kuon, Suo, Gui, Akina, and of course Kagetsu. And this is we also get to find out, because Kagetsu's introduced last, that apparently when he was in his career, the dude was completely undefeated. He was undefeated for I think an entire year, and then he ended up just leaving the spotlight. So he's a beast. Our master of ceremonies / our announcer is of course Tomari. Who else would it be? For anybody that doesn't know, she was the announcer for all of Overdress and into Will Dress. She's definitely a fan favorite when it comes to announcers. We get the rules of the deluxe. So the way the deluxe is going to work, the 12 fighters that are here are going to be split into 3 groups. They're going to play over the course of 4 days in a round robin style tournament. Round robin means basically everybody plays everybody. And then the 2 players out of each block with the best scores advance to the final tournament. But if more than 2 people qualify, like say their records are the same, I don't like this, but it's luck of the draw. They're going to get the 2 of the 3 people will get drawn, and they'll be, or however many will get, those 2 will get advanced. Now, that would only leave us with 6 players since we only have 12 people. The last 4 are competing in overseas, and then they're going to be joined. I'm assuming it's going to end up being Michiru and Danji. Who else would it really be? Let's find out. Those 8 players will then play in the finals at a later date. So I've seen somebody post this in the comments. I'm hoping it's true that this arc is actually going to last 2 seasons. And I think that'd be awesome because I love a good tournament arc, especially one that can get this intense, because man, this match was intense. We get a shot of the blocks, and each block is pretty interesting, with the first block being Gui, Mire, Now, and Erika. Second block being Suo, Senka, Megumi, and Suzune. And the third block being Raika, Kagetsu, Kuon, and Akina. And we get this funny scene of Hikari just saying that Akina's dead, because honestly, those 3 are monsters, which means we'll see new Levy Dross cards. We've already seen what Kagetsu can do, and you know we got new youth bird cards coming. But after all this introduction, we get our first matchup, and it's Gui versus Mire. So I also find out something interesting that's been added to the Cardfight lore, as Now is talking to Akina about these 2 participants and why everybody's so hyped about them. We find out that it turns out Mire is a promoter for Vanguard and a content creator, and we get to see a scene of her saying like, subscribe to my channel, and I thought that was pretty funny because you know your boy does YouTube. But I was so hyped for these because I actually play both these decks IRL. Bavsargra was the deck that brought me back into Cardfight Vanguard after I had taken a hiatus, and Sephirogila was the first gimmick deck that I really ended up having fun with, and I ended up making a Dragon Empire version that was really consistent in getting the overtrigger. So knowing that these two were the first matchup, the deluxe, I couldn't wait. I was so excited. And as we start the match, we get to see their starters. So both decks have two brand new starters. Gui has Sephirogila, and Mira has Sealed Blaze Dragon, Arhinsa Svir. Anybody that knows me, has been on my channel, knows that when it comes to Dragon Empire decks, I usually always use Arhinsa as my starter because I have Arhinsa SP, and it's a beautiful starter, one of my favorites. But let's jump into the game. So Gui goes first. Turn one, Gui doesn't ride. So we already get to see a little bit of old Griffo Seed. Sephirogila skill. Now Sephirogila moves a Blessings card from the ride deck to the soul, so no more calamities. And Gui gets an energy generator. That's huge because that was one of the biggest weaknesses of Griffo Seed, is that since you're not riding, you don't get an energy generator, but apparently it's built into Sephirogala's skill. Now we go to turn two. Now we get Mira. Mira discards Trick Moon. She draws it for turn, she discards it, and she rides Sealed Blaze Dragon Nemekar Anui, a new version of Nemekar, and she uses the new Nemekar skill. Soul Blast 1, because she went second, she gets to add 2 arms from her deck to her hand. And I was freaking out. So I'm assuming if she went first, she would only get 1. I'm assuming. That would probably be the way to balance it out. But being able to search both arms right on turn 1 is insane to me. As a Bavsargra player, where, you know, consistency was her biggest problem, just being able to snatch both of them immediately turn 1. If that skill doesn't do anything else going first, I would just always go second with this deck. Like, insane to me. But moving on, battle phase. Mira attacks with Nemekar. Gui doesn't guard. Mira doesn't get a trigger. Gui takes the first damage of the game. The damage is now 0-1 with Mira in the lead. Turn 3. Now we get to see some more fun stuff. Gui again doesn't ride. He then uses Sephirogala's skill. Again in the main phase, puts another blessing into the soul. And now we find out another part of Sephirogala's skill. So Sephirogala's grade increases by 1 and then power by 2k for every blessings card in the soul or in the drop. So for you guys to understand what this means, first off, it means you can actually play rear guards. So that means when he put that first card in soul, he was already at grade 1. Now that he put that second card in, he's already at grade 2. He's now at 10k power, so he's basically like a normal grade 2. You can play grade 2 units, you can play grade 1 units, so we can actually have an early game in Sephirogila. Also, you can cheat, kind of, sort of. So if you have other blessings cards in your deck, because I'm assuming the blessing cards are going to be just like the calamities. The calamities were orders that you can have in your deck. If you get another one into the drop, you can be grade 3 with your opponent at grade 1. So you can then play grade 3 cards. Also, it's also because if you Soul Blast for early game cards, the cards still count toward your count, because even if you Soul Blast 1, Sephirogila will still be a grade 2 with the plus 4k power, because it also counts the cards in your drop. So this just opens up the doors for so many cool plays. You can Soul Blast in the early game, you can call rear guards in the early game, you can speed up your grade in the early game if you happen to have another blessings card to discard, or to play, because you can play them as orders. So insane. Moving on. Gui calls Dragon Tree Wretch Draco Bactical and uses its skill. When this unit is played on rearguard, counterblast 1, choose one of your rearguard circles without a Dragon Tree marker and put a Dragon Tree marker on it. So the deck still plays the Dragon Tree markers. Gui attacks with Sephirogila. Mira guards. Gui doesn't get a trigger. Gui attacks with Bactical. Mira guards again. So the damage is still 0-1 with Mira in the lead. Now going into turn 4, this is where things were a little bit, less fancy. Mira rides Sealed Blaze Dragon Halibadra. This one doesn't have any new name, so that kind of surprised me that it didn't have a name. It also didn't have any skill, so I thought this was just an alt art Halibadra. She then calls a card I haven't seen in a while, Sealed Blaze Dragon Shabda. Mira attacks with Halibadra. Gui doesn't guard. Mira doesn't get a trigger. Gui takes 1 damage. Mira attacks with Shabda. This one Gui guards. Now, the damage is 0 to 2 with Mira in the lead, and now we're going into turn 5. And this is where shit gets crazy. There was also another thing that I liked personally about this game is there wasn't a whole lot of like out of game shenanigans, not a whole lot of flashbacks. Like there was a little mention of Yu. They're talking a little bit about fun, but it was mostly on the card game. And this card game was fast and furious. I had to go back so many scenes to try and figure everything out, but I'm pretty sure I got most of it. But anyway, moving on. Gui starts his turn. Again, Gui doesn't ride. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm mentioning it now. For anybody that's never seen one of my game reviews, a lot of times when it comes to the Cardfight Vanguard anime, they don't specify the energy charge 3 and the draw for turn at the beginning of the turn. Just assume they happen, especially since you will see some energy here, and their hand doesn't immediately deplete. Moving on. So Gui doesn't ride. He uses Sephirogil's skill again to put another blessing into the soul, and now with 3 blessings, Gui can then mid-review. I just realized something else. If you do have an extra, I gotta see the way it's worded, because I don't know if you need to have none in your, if you have to have no blessings in your ride deck to be able to go into Sephirogila. They don't specify that the 3 blessing cards have to be in the soul. They just said, now that I have 3 blessings, Gui ends up riding into Dragon Tree of Advent Sephirogila from the deck. If you do play extra copies of the blessings in deck and you happen to discard one of them, you can have 3 on your turn 2 and go straight into Sephirogila. I could be wrong. I need to see what the card says, but we'll find that out on Tuesday. But if that's true, this deck's early game could be bonkers, and it gives you an actual reason to play the blessing cards in your deck. Moving on. Gui calls Dragon Tree Wretch, Ragoon Kimrud, uses its skill. When this unit is placed on rearguard, counterblast 1 and soul blast 1, choose one of your rearguard circles without a Dragon Tree marker and put a Dragon Tree marker on it. Search your deck for up to 1 Mask of Hydrogram, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Gui then immediately plays the Mask of Hydrogram, looks up top 5. You choose 1 card with the Dragon Tree or Mask and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. He gets another copy of Sephirogila, adds it to hand. Gui then activates Sephirogila's skill. Act Vanguard once per turn, Energy Blast 3. You get to place a Dragon Tree marker. Now, this needs to be highlighted because you do not need to put it on an empty rearguard circle. You can actually stack this Dragon Tree marker. That's a big deal because up till now, there were only ever 2 skills in the entire game that allowed you to stack Dragon Tree markers. The first was Griffoseed, and only when you turned it into Griffogila. The 2 markers you put down had to be on separate rearguard circles, but if the rearguard circle already had a marker on it, you could put those. And the only way to get a marker on it in the early game was with corrosive smoke signals, so it was kind of a pain. And the only other way to do it was with the grade 11 token that had the skill to discard a Griffogila to put down a marker. Those markers could be stacked, but this has its own built-in skill for an Energy Blast 3 to stack. And then you get to check the top 5 of the deck and call a unit. Gui ends up calling Varina Esperidia off the top, which is crazy because, you know, that's a restanding Vanguard. Oh yeah, that reminds me, the other crazy thing about Sephirogila and Sephirogila. Now, with Griffoseed and Griffogila, when you got the 3 calamities in, you would have to take them out of the soul and put them into the ride deck, so you would lose 3 cards in soul. Sephirogila does not do that. It does not care. You get to keep those cards in your souls. You can actually use soul blast costs in the freaking deck. Yes, they fixed all the problems with Griffogila when they made Sephirogila. You have an early game. You have resources for plays. It's just, I'm a fan. Anyway, enough freaking out. Gui calls another copy of Dragon Tree Wretch Draco Bactigal. He doesn't use this one skill because he only had 1 face-up counterblast. He already used it. Gui uses another skill from Sephirogila. Sephirogila gains 5k power for each different rearguard circle with a Dragon Tree marker, and he gets the energy charge that many. So the way his board is set up, he has 2 markers on 1 circle and then 1 on 2 other circles. So he gains 15k power, and then he gets to energy charge 3. So a couple things with this that are different than Griffogila. Griffogila used to be 5k for every marker on the board, so he would have gained 20k here. and with at least 3 he would have gained a critical. So this one's giving up the critical to gain more resources, which, depending on how you look at it, is an improvement or maybe a little bit of a nerf. I personally think it's an improvement because you get to keep your soul, you get to stack markers, you get to facilitate your own abilities for the following turn, and if you have Dragon Tree Marker on every Rearguard Circle, that means you get to energy charge 5 every turn. That's basically a free card every turn because you're going to energy charge 8 every single turn. Like, it gets wild. Moving on. Gui ends up attacking with Sephirogila. Mira doesn't guard. Mira takes 1 damage. Gui attacks with Sephirogila and activates Sephirogilia's skill. Auto Rearguard once per turn when your Vanguard attacks. Soul Blast 1. This unit. Stay in this unit, and this unit gets 5k power until the end of turn for each of its original dress. That part doesn't matter because it doesn't have its original dress here. Now, Sephirogila is a grade 4. Of course, we can play it in this deck because Sephirogila is a grade 10. It was the little glitch with Sephirogila back in the day too. Mira doesn't guard. Gui gets a critical on his twin drive, gives the power to Sephirogila and the critical to his Vanguard, so Mira takes 2 damage. Gui then attacks with Quimrud. Mira guards and intercepts on this one, and then Gui attacks with Sephirogila. Mira guards again. The turn ends. The damage is now 2 to 3. This time Gui is in the lead. Now we go to turn 6, and this is where stuff gets complicated. All right, Bavsargra was always a complicated deck to make sure you sequence properly, but the amount of back and forth I had to do with Mira's turns to make sure I got these skills as best I can. I'm so excited for these cards. Mira rides Sealed Blaze of Arbitration, Bavsargra Oxaya. And Mira uses the new Halibadra skill. It does have a skill, but it's when you ride Bavsargra that it gets its skill. You place 2 arms from your deck to the drop, and then you choose 1 from the drop and arm it to the Vanguard. This entire deck now can arm from the drop zone. And between being able to search 2 arms when you ride grade 1, that becomes your ride fodder for the next 2 turns. So you don't ever have to discard for ride. You could just ditch the arms because you can start arming from the drop. Halibadra rips 2 more out of the deck, so you're getting rid of 2 more dead cards out of your deck to then arm from the drop to be able to play your game. Like, it flows together so well. But now we get to see some of the new arms, because Mira uses the skill to arm Sealed Blaze Shield. Sorry, these names are going to get difficult. Bodhantha. There we go. And the first skill of Bodhantha is when it's armed, draw a card. Immediate +1. Mira then uses Bavsargra's skill. When armed, energy charge 1 and call a grade 1 lore from the drop. So Mira, of course, calls Trick Moon. And then when Trick Moon's called, she activates the skill of Shabda. She calls Trick Moon behind her Vanguard. Mira calls Shabda from the drop, and with its skill, auto drop when your unit is placed on the rearguard from the drop. If your Vanguard is Blaze Maiden Bavsargra, counterblast 1 and call this card to rearguard. There is a problem here, and I need to see this on the card. I need to know if this card is treated as Bavsargra, because Shabda specifically needs Sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra, not Sealed Blaze of Arbitration. This also applies to Sephirogila, because you'll see on next turn, Gui plays a card that's specific to Sephirogila, and I need to know if Sephirogila is treated as Sephirogila, because that also opens up a little bit more to other options that you could play, because you could actually play the grade 11 if you really want to. So let us continue. So she calls out Shabda, and then she calls a new grade 2 called, I'm assuming it's going to be Sealed Blaze Dragon, but it's called Yugmashad. There we go. And uses its skill. On place, discard an arms card, draw 2 cards, and it gains 5k until end of turn, turning the dead arms into draw power. Yes. And then fueling the graveyard to be able to arm from the drop. Yes. And now Mira uses another of Bavsargra's skills. All right, this one I put a big asterisk on because we don't ever see the cost of this unless you watch the entire episode to the point of watching Cook Million at the end of the episode. Because I never watched Cook Million. I just checked it out because I saw Mira, and I'm glad I did because I found out this cost for this skill. You place a card from your hand to soul, and you can arm Bavsargra from the freaking drop zone. That's it. That's all it does. So you can turn any card in your hand into an arm. Yeah, we wish we had that now. But we see Mira arm the new sword, Steel Blaze Sword Diava. There we go, Diava. Which Diava on arm gives 5k power to the front row. Beautiful. Now, it's not obviously not the 10k that Bavsargra would get by herself, but this deck doesn't focus as hard on the Vanguard Circle, so the 5k to the front row is perfectly fine. Now, Bavsargra has another skill. She actually has her old skill. When she has 2 arms, Soul Blast 2, and retire your opponent's front row, she gets critical. So she gets to keep what made us fall in love with Bavsargra in the first place. Now we move to the battle phase. Mira attacks with Yug Mashad. Gui guards. Mira attacks with Bavsargra and activates the skill of Diava. It has another skill besides giving the 5k to the front row. It gives Bavsargra an extra freaking drive check. And it does what I've always prayed, where it destroys itself at the end of turn, not the end of the battle, so you don't lose any of your powers. And this card plays with all of Bavsargra's old support. So if Difstias is still a good card, like, yes, you can have Trick Moons or Varalords behind other rear guards and still be able to use this. It's just a free triple drive. And then this card destroys itself, which you can then arm from the drop on the following turn. Like, it flows so well together. They did such a good job on these cards. But anyway, moving on. Gui ends up guarding with the perfect guard. Mira gets a draw trigger and a front trigger on her triple drive. Obviously, she gives 10k to the front row, and then she gives 10k to the Yug Mashad that she already attacked with, because then we find out that Yug Mashad is a restanding rear guard after the Vanguard swings. It does cost a counterblast. I was very careful with the costs. It costs a counterblast, it restands. Mira then attacks with the Shabda that's been powered up by the front trigger. Gui ends up using Corrosive Smoke Signal here. And this is what I was talking about, where Corrosive Smoke Signal just needs a Hydreigon Vanguard, but it gives 10k. But if you have Sephirogila, it gives 20k instead of 10k, and he gives it the 20k here. So just want to be sure when we see the card that it's treated as Sephirogila, because that also opens up some other plays. Mira then attacks with the Yug Mashad again, and Gui doesn't guard. Gui takes a damage. The turn ends. Diava destroys itself, goes to the drop zone. The damage is now 3-3, and it's even. Turn 7. These are the big turns. Gui Persona rides another copy of Sephirogila. Gui calls another Dragon Tree Red Spectacle, uses its skill, gets another Dragon Tree marker. He now has Dragon Tree markers on his entire board. So now Sephirogila energy charges 5 and gains 25,000 power. He then also uses its other skill, which is again Energy Blast 3. Place a marker down and check the top 5, call a card. He plays another marker down, so his 2 front rows are now stacked with 2 markers each. That's plus 10k to the front to whichever unit goes there. And then he calls another Esperidia off the top 5. And guess what? He has another one in his hand, so he calls his third Esperidia from his hand. So now he goes into his battle phase. He's got 5 attacks on board. He attacks with Esperidia. Mira doesn't guard, she takes a damage. He attacks with his other Esperidia. Mira doesn't guard, she takes another damage, so now she's at 5. Gui attacks with Sephirogila. It turns out, if there are markers on every single rear guard circle, if they're all 5, Sephirogila now gains an extra drive check as well. So, Mira guards with the perfect guard. Gui gets a triple drive. He gets a draw trigger and a critical trigger on his triple drive, and he gives powers to each of as a crit. Gui then attacks with Esperidia. Mind you, Mira is at 5. So now we get to see the second skill of her shield, and it turns out that it's an upgrade of the original shield, giving 20,000 power to Bavsargra for a battle. 20,000 is huge. That's a real shield, even in the current format. In the current format, that 10k that we got from our OG shield just wasn't cutting it. But this matters, because that puts her straight up to 33. But then she also guards with cards from hand, and then when Gui attacks with the second Esperidia, Mira dumps a bunch of cards and intercepts with her Shabda, managing to guard the attack. Now the damage is 3-5, with Gui now firmly in the lead. But we're going into turn 8, which is the final turn of the game. So spoiler alert, Mira is gonna win, but the way she does it is sick. Sick. So Mira starts her turn, she Persona rides. She uses Bavsargra's skill. Remember, you take a card from hand, put it to soul, arm from the drop. And that's what she does. She arms the sword again, giving her front row 5k. And now she uses the second skill to energy charge 1 and to call a card from the drop. But then we get to find out something cool as shit about this skill that, honestly, when I first watched the episode, I didn't catch it until I watched the Cook Million. And then when Michael watched this scene again, not only can she call a grade 1 Allure from the drop, if it's Verilord and you have a Trick Moon on the board, you can overdress from the drop. And that's what she does. She calls Verilord from the drop and overdresses over Trick Moon and then uses Verilord's skill. If anybody that doesn't remember what Verilord does, auto when this unit is placed on rearguard by the overdress ability, Counterblast 1, choose up to a total of 2 arm cards from your hand or drop, arm 1 to your Vanguard, and put the rest to your soul. She arms a second copy of Diava. Remember, when Diava is equipped, it gives 5k to the front row, which is what she did. And then when she armed the second one, she gave another 5k to the front row. Now, I believe this is continuous. I believe it applies it to the Vanguard, because then she calls another copy of Yug Mashad. Remember, she already has one in the front row. She calls a second one. So now she has 2 restanders in the front row, which is, again, everybody swore up and down that Bavsargra needed a 4th attack. And now she has the potential to get 5 attacks. It's a super counterblast heavy combo, but just the fact that we have it on top of everything else that Bavsargra has now, yes. And now with the 10k from the Persona ride, the 10k from the Diavas, like, this turn is going to hit like a truck. And she has a Trick Moon in the back row, so there's going to be another 10k to the front row. Last thing she does before moving into battle phase is she uses Bavsargra's skill. So last 2, retire the front row, get +1 critical. She then attacks with the first Yug Mashad, Greed guards. She attacks with the second Yug Mashad, Greed guards. She attacks with Bavsargra, boost by Verilord, and uses Verilord's dress boost. Auto rearguard with this unit boosts. In the overdress state, all of your front row rearguards get 5k until end of turn for each card your Vanguard is armed with. So obviously 2 arms, that's 10k to the front row. Greed guards us with a perfect guard. Mira gets a triple drive still because she has the sword again. She gets a critical trigger on her 3rd check, and she gives both of them to one of the Yug Mashads. She then counterblasts 2, stands both of the Yug Mashads, swings at 1. Weed doesn't guard. It's a 40k attack. He can't guard it. And then she swings with 50k for 2. Again, Gui can't guard. He's hoping on a heal trigger. He takes 2 damage. Mira takes the W of the first fight of the deluxe. Now remember, this doesn't mean that Gui's out. Gui gets to continue fighting. He has to fight 2 more opponents before we find out who advances. But the damage is 6-5. It was a fantastic fight. We got to see all these amazing cards. Like, there's so many possibilities for all of these cards, and we're not even done with the episode. Gui ends up acting silly because he lost. Mira and him show some good sportsmanship. Mira invites him over to Daybreak so he can play the kids and see what it is to see people having fun, because that's what he wants. He wants to have them see. He wants to learn more about people having fun. We see a quick scene of Now and Akina talks about how watching the 2 of them fight really hyped him up. And then the last thing we see is our new lyrical player, Suzune, and it focuses on her. She's not really doing anything, it just shows her open her eyes, but I'm assuming she's going to be the next fight that we're going to see on the anime. But I don't care about that right now. This is what I care about. This is insane. Like, Sephirogila being able to have soul early game, being able to basically have infinite energy, like, it's going to open up a lot of doors, especially since, again, it's nationless. It can go with any nation. In this case, we just saw it with Dragon Empire, which has some of the worst Dragon Tree support, and it still did some really, really cool stuff, especially with Esperidia. So who knows what else we're going to see with that. And then Bavsargra, oh my god, I can't wait to play that deck. I cannot wait. So please, guys, let me know what you guys thought of both of these decks down in the comments. I can't wait to start brainstorming. We're going to get Sephirogila revealed on Tuesday, and then we're going to get Bavsargra revealed on Thursday, so we're going to get all the cards quick. If you guys want to see me play some Cardfight Vanguard live, be here Tuesday. Tuesday, I'm streaming a little bit later, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're definitely going to be playing Sephirogila as long as we pray. Cardfight area updates in time. I definitely want to play it. If not, we'll be focusing on the Moon deck because that is in Cardfight area now. And then of course I'm gonna make a video on Bavsargra as soon as I can get my hands on those cards. So keep an eye out for both. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links will be down below. I appreciate you guys for all your support. That is it from me. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.